Thanks for tuning in to more thoroughbred horse racing action on Prime Sports Network. Just a few more weeks to go for the Kentucky Derby. One more prep race, and that's what we're going to cover today on the show from Keeneland, the Lexington. We'll also preview a race that will take place before the Lexington. That'll be race number 8, the Giants Causeway Stakes. And we'll add a little bonus pick on the Jenny Wiley. So it's 8, 9, and 10 actually at Keeneland coming up starting at 4:44 on Saturday. Before I do that, welcome the boys to the show. Chad, how's it going?
Lovely.
Lovely.
It's 80 degrees in New York. What more can you ask for?
There you go.
Going up to 90.
Wow. It's spring.
I guess I can ask for less heat.
John, where are you? You're in New York too, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Long Island.
Is it cooler out there?
No, I'm 15 minutes from Chad.
Long Island. Yes, the good old days where the Jets used to train. Training camp.
Exactly. Hofstra.
Yeah. All right, now.
Kicked many a field goal over there at that training camp.
What's that?
I kicked many a field goal at that training camp.
Oh, yeah, you had fun there, huh?
Yeah.
You didn't go to Hofstra High School, did you?
My son went to Hofstra College.
Hofstra College.
He did.
Did he go with Crubette?
No.
His son is much younger than Wayne Corbett.
Yeah, much younger.
Okay.
In fact, Wayne Corbett Sports Bar had already closed by the time his son went there.
All right. So last week, boy, we had some exciting races last week. Exciting finishes, stretch duels, starting with the Bluegrass Stakes with Tapit Trice and Verifying going head-to-head at the end. What did you think about that result, John?
It figured. It was logical. It's not like it didn't make any sense. The result at Aqueduct didn't make much sense, but the result at Keeneland made a lot of sense.
Yeah, the two favorites. How did they result as far as the sheets? Do we know? Do you know? You got an update on that?
I will check for you. I should have had it. I'm sorry.
It was a 9, and I think it was a 9. A 9, I think, was the Bluegrass. Look. I mean, all the credit in the world goes to Luis Saez for Tapit Trice because I didn't think, and I still don't think, that he likes kickback. And Luis Saez from post 1 on a 12-horse field was able to maneuver him outside in the clear going into the first turn, which is just a remarkable.
That's where he won the race, Chad. Going into the first, he won the race going into the first turn. That's what I think. Anyway.
And so you sit there, and it's funny because as we look ahead to the Kentucky Derby, you say, well, yeah, he certainly has the talent to win, and the distance won't be a problem. Can the Maestro do this again with 20 horses? We'll find out. But, I mean, so far, I mean, Louis won that race by making that move. And we'll see where he's drawn in a couple of weeks in the Kentucky Derby. His draw will be very important. I think for sure. They also went much faster at Bluegrass than they did in other races like the Louisiana Derby.
He ran an 8.
Tapit Trice?
Yes.
So that's back-to-back 8s. And Verifying had a 9?
Verifying, yeah.
9. So that's a best, a two-point best. Okay. So that was the Bluegrass. Then came the Santa Anita, and we had another really good stretch drive with the favorite, Practical Move, holding off the Japanese horse and Skinner.
By the way, that just shows you how good the Chad horse is that he liked it at Sagagaki, because this was supposed to be the Group B horse, and he got beat a nose by Practical Move, who's certainly a top 5 contender in the Derby. So if he held that Japanese horse off by a nose, how good is
Mandarin Hero?
No, yeah, but the horse that Chad gave out at the UAE Derby, Sagagaki, Wakaki, whatever the heck his name is.
Derma Sadagaki.
Yeah, that's it. Derma Sadagaki. I mean, that horse has to move way up now off of the other horse's performance, I would think. No?
I mean, everyone wants to make comparisons and everything else. Everyone's saying, well, the one horse that beat Mandarin Hero was 4th behind Derma Sadagaki in Japan last year when they were 2-year-olds. A lot can change. A lot can happen, over the course of time. I'll be the first to admit it. Mandarin Hero surprised the heck out of me. He ran a lot better than I thought he was going to. Closed into it. I think it was a little bit of a cheeky ride. from Ramon Vasquez, who seemingly Practical Move has gotten the perfect trip every time he's ever run the last 4 starts in all his stake races. He's gotten the absolute perfect trip. I think maybe moved a little bit early. I don't think he took the Japanese horse as seriously as maybe he should have. And it almost caught him at the end there. Skinner, Skinner continues to do Skinner things. Skinner likes to make these big sweeping moves around the turn to really get your heart pumping if you like him. But he
comes up
kind of
short.
doesn't.
He doesn't
finish the job. So I mean, even if he were to get into the Derby or wait for the Preakness, he's kind of like that but horse. And is he a must use on bottom? Sure, but I don't think he's a Derby contender off the way. He runs the same races every single time he runs, Skinner. It seems like he's going to make this huge move and he's going to blow by, and then he just kind of hangs a little bit towards the end. But look, Mandarin Hero ran a much better race than I thought. Whether or not he gets into the Derby, we'll find out over the next couple of weeks. It's looking like he might not. Might be a fresh horse for the Preakness, which would be interesting for sure. But look, he showed up. He ran his big race. We'll see if he travels to Kentucky. He's still not Triple Crown nominated. They have to nominate him at some point. It's going to cost them $60,000 to nominate him. So we'll see what happens with that. And then look, Practical Move is a horse who now is has one of the best numbers. He's got some of the best sheet lines as far as coming into the race. Yeah. I think he got a 7, I believe, John.
I think he got an 8. Hold on, let me check.
He's got a really good line.
He was 1 point better than Tapper Trice. Look, he's a horse that's
9.
Somehow.
He got a 9.
No.
Yeah, I'm looking
he got
at
lower than Bluegrass.
He got the Bluegrass was an 8 and he got a 9.
So Practical Moon had a 9.
Yes, sir.
Wow, back-to-back 9s.
So,
okay.
The thing is, he's a horse that I think is not getting the respect that he should. He's the kind of horse that maybe ends up as a 10-1 overlay in the Derby morning line, and he shouldn't be. I think he's a horse that needs to be taken seriously. The California horses have done well shipping over in the past, and he's done nothing wrong in his last 3 starts for sure. I think he's actually been managed well, and I think he's sitting on a career best effort going into the Derby. So I wasn't as disappointed with him as some other people. A lot of people are starting to write him off for some reason, or use the race to say that Dermot Satagaki is a must use now, which obviously I'm rooting for. But I'm not writing off Practical Move by any stretch of the imagination. I just continue to kick myself for vetting the horse out of the sale and us not pursuing him to buy him. But that's not
all right. So yeah, Derma Sotagake, 7th in points.
Good to see that Dad Brown can win his first Kentucky Derby as a breeder rather than as a trainer.
There you go.
The other Japanese horse is 20th right now. Continuar?
It's not 20th. The whole thing's silly. He's in because he qualified for the Japanese Road to the Derby. How they write it as 20th is irrelevant.
Okay.
It's not really a point thing. So he can't be. Nobody can pass him.
So Jace's Road would be the horse, or Jace's Road and Reincarnate. Those are the last two.
Skinner's the first one out. Yeah. Jace's Road's not in right now. Skinner, Jace's Road, and Cyclone Mischief are all out, despite all having 45 points.
Yeah, but a lot's going to happen. You got a month left.
Listen. The way it looks to me on paper, I don't think we're going to have the defections that everybody keeps saying. There's going to be so many defections. I don't
think they're going to be a lot of, but things just happen in life.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Okay.
There are horses that are running in the Derby that don't deserve to be in the Derby, but I don't see them changing their minds. So
right, I agree with that.
I guess we'll have to wait for the Preakness for King Russell, unfortunately. So he's just not.
He's going to have bigger fish to fry than King Russell will come the Derby. Come the Preakness, believe me. They're going to be real horses that are missing the Derby that are going to run well there. So let's see what happens.
Okay, and then as you mentioned at the top, at Aqueduct at the Wood, we had Lord Miles. That's right, Lord Miles picking up the win, the 30-1 shot. Safi Joseph trained horse. Paco Lopez. Well, Lord Miles, what did you think about that one? You've already given a little bit of an idea on how you thought about that, John.
I don't know. The race, I think, must have collapsed because a pretty slow horse won with a brand new top. But listen, it's Saffie Joseph. You could never count him out. He could always win any time, any race, anywhere, and he proved it on Saturday.
Yeah, it was crazy, Chad, because you have the three horses battling, neck to neck to neck, and the one horse that actually pulled it off was the long shot.
I don't know that it's a collapse per se. I think it was a very rough run race. The race should have been sponsored by Dana White in the UFC. There was a lot of bumping. There was
the first turn. There was almost a pile up going into the first turn.
Bump and grind. Dylan Davis was lucky not to fall off of Slip Mahoney. Lost all chance at that point, as did some others as well. Look, there's a lot to kind of unfurl watching the replay of that race as many times as I have. The three of them battled to the wire. Look, the Dreamlike continues to run well as a maiden, but he's still a maiden. And still, even with the blinkers on, doesn't want to pass horses in the stretch. He's done that in his first two races. So he needs to maybe just get a little bit of easier competition. He's a horse that we can hear a lot from the second half of the year. I think he's got a world of talent, Dreamlike, but he needs to learn to get the job done. Hit Show battled. I think even though maybe he lost the battle, this could help him win the war, because I think Hit Show got a lot out of that loss with experience, with battling. The Withers last time he had won so easy. He was coming off a little bit of a longer layoff by design, but then some of these others because they didn't want to cut back to a mile. I think Hit Show moves forward off of this race. Lord Miles, he was best on the day. People forget in the Holy Bull, Saffie Joseph was so excited. He said he wouldn't trade places with any other 3-year-old in the country when he ran third in the Holy Bull. He's just been so disappointing in his two races since then that everybody kind of wrote him off. But we've talked about it 100 times. Tampa, you don't know. Horses are going to like it. They're not going to like it. There's a lot of things going on at Tampa that, you just kind of take with a grain of salt as far as where they finish. So, look, Lord Miles was a winner of a race that was kind of a Derby preview, because it's going to be a rough run race. And the thing that Lord Miles was able to work out was the best trip. So Lord Miles had the best trip in the race, and he won. And we've talked about this on the show before. I don't think you have to be the best horse to win the Derby. You have to have the best trip. And so credit goes to Paco Lopez in working out the best trip on that day. We'll see if he can follow suit in 4 weeks. It's going to be very difficult, to be honest with you, when we look ahead to the Kentucky Derby, because I do think that Forte and Tapper Trice are probably the two best horses here, and they're a little bit better than the other 18. But I really think it's going to be whoever gets the best trip. I think there's 12 horses that can probably win the Derby if they get the best trip. There's 8 horses that don't belong in the race. Yeah. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah, look, take nothing away from what he did. Lord Miles got the trip needed, avoided the roller derby behind him, competed in the roller derby in front, and came out with the right knee pad. So he was the winner on Saturday, and all the credit to him.
Do we have sheets on that, John? Sheet
on
numbers on the Wood Memorial winner and the Hit Show.
Hit Show, I didn't get a number, but I have a number on the Wood winner. If you hold on 1 second, you'll have.
Lord Miles' previous best was 13.
And a 9 minus 8.5 he ran.
Oh, okay. And that means Hit Show probably ran an all-time best too. So his line is very good. Hit Show, actually, his sheet line very good. All right.
And Hit Show coming off a back-to-back 9 furlong races to stretch out to the 10. I like to see. So, look, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of moving parts in the next 4 weeks. But the thing that I've read on social media and some commentaries and stuff like that is, people are kind of fading Hit Show and Practical Move, and I disagree with that at this stage. I think there's a lot to actually like from their races rather than dislike.
So you think? What do you think? If Forte is going to go off as the favorite, what kind of a favorite do you think he's going to go off at? A really short price?
Forte is 3-1, between 5-2 and 3-1 morning line favorite would be my guess. I think Tapper Trice will be the second choice at about 7-2 to 4-1. And then third choice will be kind of wide open from there. But I do think Todd's walking in with the two favorites right now.
Yeah, and if either of those favorites don't come in, like you said, there's going to be a handful of more
gotta wait and see post position and everything. You know.
I'm just saying, there's going to be a handful or more of horses that are going to be, pretty well priced that you might be able to make some money on.
The one thing that I'll tell you is, based on what we've seen from this year, you can make a lot of money in the Kentucky Derby if you're willing to spend some money, because the trifecta and the superfecta is going to be where your value is, and anybody can finish third or fourth.
Well, when they'll run second, as we learned from last year, but that's besides the point.
Okay, let's get started for this week's races from Keeneland, and we're going to start in order. Race 8. This is a 5.5 furlong turf race, the Giants Causeway Stakes, $250,000 purse for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. Again, this should go off about 4:45 on Saturday. And there are a lot of horses in this race, John. Obviously, that's what's appealing about this race as a wagering race. There's 12 horses. There seems to be, maybe 3 or 4 that you can go with. We'll start with the favorite of the race, and I guess you could say they're kind of So we'll go with I'll tell you what. Let's go with the 4-1 shot, Happy Soul. I think he's the favorite. The 3, who has just one start on turf, John, and that was an 11, so that's impressive. That's Ward and Velazquez combo. Should Happy Soul be the favorite, even though he's kind of like a co-favorite?
Not off the figures. I mean, he's a favorite because it's Wesley, Ward, and Velasquez, and Ward does exceptionally well at the Keeneland. But and he got beat ahead in a $500,000 stake race, his only race on the grass. So, I guess they're expecting a forward move, but I like other horses in the race.
Yeah, he was 15-1 in that race too.
Yeah, well,
now he's 4-1.
It was his first time on the grass. Yep. So,
Chad, who do you think should be the favorite? Happy Soul or the other 2 horses that are 9-2?
I don't think Happy Soul should be the favorite. She's a nice filly. She was very, very fast as a 2-year-old. Her sire, Run Happy, stands in stall 1 at Claiborne, which is always good to know. I think she ran fine in the turf race. You certainly have nothing wrong with her in the turf race, but it's very difficult to compare that Kentucky Downs turf course to anything else. And the thing with Happy Soul is she wants to be forwardly placed. It's a shorter race that she actually ran really well to run as well as she did on a, kind of European style turf course in the Kentucky Downs. I just think there's a lot of speed in here. And the interesting thing to me, and I always get a kick out of this, because when trainers have multiple horses in a race, you don't know what to expect. Is one the rabbit? Is one this? Is one that? With Wesley Ward, you really never know what to expect, and he might scratch one. Everything's up in the air. I prefer the bottom horse, Wesley's other horse, with Irad Ortiz, who I think is equally as fast. So I don't know how the race is going to set up necessarily on paper. I think you don't take the speed away from either of them, and there's a lot of horses here that want to be forwardly placed. But I actually prefer the other Wesley Ward horse with Irad Ortiz instead of Happy Soul.
Yeah, Twilight Gleaming, the 10 horse, is won that Breeders' Cup race at Del Mar in November. And you take a look at that horse, 7 of 8 on turf overall, with 5 wins. Also 7 of 8 at the distance of 5.5 furlongs with 5 wins. And then you took at the other favorite, the 4, Over maybe? Overvoir. He's got 5 straight wins, including the last 2 on turf, 4 wins out of 4 at 5.5 furlongs. So the 4 and the 10 have some pretty impressive stats. As far as the sheets, the 4 horse has 2 11s this year in those 2 5.5 furlong wins. Twilight's Gleaming does have an 11, but also has a 12, a 15, and a 16.
Yeah, I love the 4 of Wyatt. His last 2 races, they're both sprinting on the grass, both at the same distance. Why wouldn't I like him? And she's not the favorite. She's 9-2. This is the horse that I'd be playing.
What about the 4, Chad?
The one thing about Twilight, just finalizing on Twilight Gleaming, look, Wesley Ward is putting together his team for Royal Ascot. He's already debuted 2 2-year-old winners that are both planning on heading there. Including Bledsoe who won the first one. I think the horse that won the other day with Rosario as well. Both homebreds for Wesley. I would think that of the two between Happy Soul and Twilight Gleaming, that Twilight Gleaming would be the one to kind of follow suit. Campanelle won this race last year, and I think they would kind of want to follow suit. Twilight Gleaming, I can see going to Royal Ascot to run against, ironically enough, Caravel, who would have been 1-5 in this race had she not run against the boys last week and beat the boys. As far as Au revoir is concerned, certainly a nice horse, likes to win. Right. And that's the one thing in these kind of races where there's going to be so many noses on the wire. You want to see a horse who likes to kind of compete and win. This horse is a win machine. Dirt, turf, it doesn't really seem like it makes a difference. Certainly makes sense. Respect the pick there from John. But this is definitely the toughest field she's ever faced.
Let me ask you a question. Velasquez rode Twilight Gleaming last time, and Irad Ortiz rode Happy Soul. So now they're switching. Well, Velasquez rode both of them, so he chose Happy Soul. Does it matter to you?
And often with Wesley, there's always more than meets the eye. I don't know that John.
And usually you know the behind the scenes situation. That's why I asked you.
Okay.
I mean, Frankie Dettori's written a lot for Wesley over the years too, and he doesn't ride either of them. But I mean, look, he's had a lot of success with both riders. I would think that Irad, who went to Royal Ascot for him last year, will certainly go to Royal Ascot again for him this year. I don't know if Rosario was supposed to ride one. Rosario's been riding first call for Wesley this meet. But at the end of the day, Rosario's at Oaklawn riding Clarity Air for Asmussen. So a lot of moving parts, but certainly you're in good hands with both Hall of Fame John Velasquez and soon-to-be Hall of Famer Irad Ortiz.
As far as the rest of the field, a couple of horses I wanted to throw out there. The one, Train of Artemis, an 8-1 shot. 4 wins out of 6 at 5.5 furlongs. 7 of 8 on turf with 5 wins. Does have an 11, but that was last August. This year, 16, 13, 14, but the horse does finish a lot in the money. And then the other horse I wanted you guys' opinion on was the 5, Amy C. Only the second race this year, but last year ended with a 9. This year began with a 9. Both races at Santa Anita, including a grade 3 win last time out. So what about an Amy C's 6-1, Train of Artemis is 8-1. John, what about those two?
Well, Amy C, his last 2 races were both coming down the hill at Santa Anita. 6.5 furlongs down the hill is a completely different race than 5 furlongs sprinting on the turf. So not only that, she ran a top in that race. I don't particularly like her there. And as far as Train to Artemis, she's like about 5 other horses in the race. And she'll take money because she never goes off any sort of price. So I would play against her too. I would play against both of those horses. I like the 4. I would put them over the 2 Wesley Ward horses, the 3 and the 10. And if you're looking for a third horse, throw in the Abreu horse, the 12. 4 over 3, 10, 12.
Chad?
Yeah, I agree with John on the George Abreu horse. I mean, ran second in this race last year. Always seems to run well, fresh. Just been a really, really cool horse. Been well managed by George Abreu for owner breeder Larry Gorchman, who loves the game and puts a lot of money and time and effort and energy into the game. So I can see her running second again behind Wesley Ward. Did it last year, maybe do it again this year. But I would use it in a box with the Wesley Ward horse that I like on the bottom. I think it's 11-12 for me. I'm going to try and beat the other Wesley.
Did you say 11?
You like 11 and 12, Chet. He means to say 10 and 11. No, 10 and 12. Not the 11. The 11 has nothing to do with it.
All right. Yeah, so Star Divine, by the way, 3 11s this year on turf.
Last year.
Last year, you're right. Excuse me, because this is his first race this year. 6-1, Star Divine, the number 12, 3 11s last year, 2 14s the last 2 races, which ended in late November. All right, so that's it for race number 8, and let's move on now to race number 9. This is the Kentucky Derby prep race, the final one of them all, and that is the Lexington Stakes. And let me get that out.
I think it's 20 points, right, Chad? You get 20 points for this race?
20 to the winner, 10 to second.
Okay.
So nobody's going to get in.
This isn't helping anyone, really.
Yes. Disarm.
Disarm is the only one that could help?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this one, speaking of disarm, that's the 6th horse. It's 7-2. 3 consecutive 14s, including 2 this year. Runner up at the Louisiana Derby. So that's the 7-2 horse. First mission, John, 3-1, 2 10s to start his career. That's awfully impressive. This is one of Brad Cox's horses. So and the other Brad Cox horse has 2 13s to start the year, to start his career. So the 5 looks like the best horse just based on the sheets. Would I be right on that?
Yeah, I mean, but you have a horse like the 8, Empire Strikes Fast, the Bill Mott horse, ran once at 10. Well, how do we know what he's going to do? And he wanted going long, not an easy thing to do at Gulfstream first out to win at 1.16 miles. He did it. Obviously the Cox horse is the horse to beat with the 2 10s. I think that, Cox is just loaded. He just, he goes to the bench and brings in another horse. He's amazing. And this horse is fine. And again, I like the 5 and 8. I'm not fooling anybody here, but I would play against Disarm. Hopefully he really takes money because off the sheets, as you see, he's really slow compared to the other horses.
Chad?
Yeah, so a couple of things on this. One, on Empire Strikes Back, look, I think it's important to say the horse he beat, right? So he beat Dreamlike. Dreamlike was 1-5.
Much beating Dreamlight, but
what's that?
Dreamlight will lose to anybody apparently down the stretch.
Okay. You can also say that Dreamlike as a maiden got beat 2 heads from being in the Kentucky, losing the Wood Memorial. So
I did. That's why I liked him last week.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think credit to Empire Strikes Back that he's obviously keeping good company. The form line looks okay, and look, they spent $6,000 to nominate this gelding to the Triple Crown, knowing that they weren't going to go to a Derby prep. So to me, this screams they're looking to run the Lexington as a springboard into the Preakness. Bill Mott's normally a conservative guy, so for them to spend $6,000 off just that maiden win, I know the number came back good. Certainly have to respect connections that are marching forward with this plan of going into the Lexington and hoping to go to the Preakness, especially with a gelding. Because with a gelding, there's no value. There's no, you're not getting a stud deal done. You can take your time. You can go to a lot of different places, but this is the route that they elected to take. As far as mission's concerned for Brad Cox, the barn's been very high on him from get-go. This is a Godolphin homebred. Obviously, Brad's done very, very well for the Mocktoon family over the last few years, starting with Essential Quality. And this horse just seems like another in the line. Ran well, kind of a little bit green first time out, getting beat by the stablemate that they're high on in Bishop's Bay, and then came back, stretched out around 2 turns, and wasn't much the best winner. Look, it was an odds-on horse. He beat another Godolphin horse who was second that day. He wasn't like uber impressive, and the horse that was second, St. John's, didn't really want to switch his leads in the stretch. But he did what he was supposed to do, and this is the next kind of logical step for them as well. And, the one thing that you have to take very seriously, and John kind of half joked about it, but was also serious, Brad Cox's bench is so deep right now that whoever he elects to run in this race, look, they toyed with running Bishop's Way in this race. Victory Formation was talked about being in this race. So he had a lot of other options that were maybe a little bit more proven. This is the route he went with the 2 horses that they're running. And so you have to respect the fact that, he thinks that Fire Mission can get the job done and doesn't need to go 3 or 4 deep as he could have. So, obviously with that kind of note, I think he is the horse to beat. The one thing I'll say about Disarm, look, he's a son of Gunrunner. He was a hype horse at Saratoga last year. He's been a little bit of a disappointment, but he ran well in the Louisiana Derby in a race that was, just a dawdling pace. I think it's a different race here. And speaking to Jose Ortiz about it, look, Jose's excited about going there. He doesn't necessarily have a Derby mount yet. He wants to have a Derby mount. Asmussen reaching out to Jose Ortiz to ride, I thought was interesting with Rosario committed to going to Oaklawn and Gaffleone seemingly, committed to riding Verifying for Brad Cox. He reached out to a jock who was open for the Derby, looking at this as a kind of a 2-race thing, because if he's first or even second, he'll get enough points to go to the Derby. So does he have to win? No. Do they enter this race trying to make the Derby? 100%. And I know the Steve Asmussen barn's been kind of cold since hitting the win number 10,000. He's 0 for 9 going into the races today at Keeneland, off to a very, very slow start. with some horses that took a lot of money and didn't show up last week. But Barn always needs to be respected. Jose Ortiz is going to give it his all to get himself a Derby mount, and I think this arm will likely be 1-2. I don't think they're running in this race just to run in the race or to point for something else. They're running in this race anticipating getting enough points to make the Derby. So I think this arm is a logical contender. I think it's him in First Mission 1-2 in my eyes.
All right. I have to get your opinion, though, of course, on Arabian Lion. First time we've seen Bob Baffert out there for a while. Irad Ortiz Jr., first 2 races, 10 and then 8. So that's awesome. Ran the 8 at Keeneland, by the way. Then in December, ran a 16. And to start the year in February, ran a 15. So not sure what happened after the first 2 races to the last 2 races, but Arabian Lion is a 7-2 shot, John.
Well, the first 2 races were sprinting. The last 2 races were going long. So I know he's bred to go long, being out of Justify, but obviously he's just a better sprinter. Something went amiss. He's better sprinting than he is routing. And he, by the way, runs for no points. So if he wins, because it's Baffert, he can't get any points.
Well, he would take him to the Preakness, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The Preakness may turn out to be better than the Derby. I got news for you. There are a lot of good horses that'll be running in the Preakness.
He was he ran here last week with Hajaji in the sprint race, right? So they could have picked which one they wanted. It's owned by the same person, trained by the same person. They elected to sprint Hajaji, cut him back in distance. He was second best behind Brad Cox. Arabian Lion's a really, really cool horse. He's one of my favorite horses that I saw at the sale last year. Doesn't have the best conformation. I think that gets in his way a little bit, especially as they go further. But looks like he's working really, really well. Huge 5 furlong work in 59. Came back and worked 3 quarters and 11 and change on Easter Sunday for Bob Baffert. So certainly he's indicating that he's sitting on an effort. Obviously was disappointing finishing 4th in the Bob Baffert 4-horse race last time out. But I can see this horse running an improved race. The disappointing thing was, yes, he ran a good number at Keeneland, but he was odds on that day in the allowance race, and he actually was a little bit of a disappointment. Obviously, take nothing away from Brad Cox's horse, who was giant on that day. But I thought he should have won that day, and he was. I think they were disappointed that he was second in the allowance race.
Okay, so
when he ran second out.
John, you said you're going with 5-8.
Yes, I'm making the box 5-8-8-5.
Okay, and Chad, what did you say?
I'm going to go with Fire Mission on top of Disarm and then Arabian Lion. I mean, Disarm and Arabian Lion, I think, are very similar horses. I think either one can run second. I think Fire Mission's the horse to beat.
You're going to go 5 over 6-11?
Yeah.
And then before we let you go, the Grade 1 race on the card, which is the Jenny Wiley. It looks like to me, well, just based on the sheets, of course, John, that it's going to be the 2 against the 5. You've got an Italian. We haven't seen an Italian since the Breeders' Cup. And the 5 is With the Moonlight, a Charles Appleby horse that's been in the States, ran 3 times in the States, 9-11-9, went back to Dubai, ran a couple of 10s. So is this what this race is going to be about, the 2 and the 5?
Well, for the sheets, that's what it looks like. It's a full field. It's really not a smart thing to be taking 2 favorites in a 12-horse field. But
who else out there would you be interested to try to make some money off of?
Honestly, I didn't look at the race because I thought we were only doing the other 2 races. So this somewhat took me by surprise, but I did not do it. So
I was looking at, because I mean, the 3 I noticed were, I don't know if you had a chance to look at them, Chad, were the 6, the 8, and the 9. 2 20-1 shots and an 8-1 shot. That 9 White Frost has a 12 and a 14 this year. Had a 12 and a 13 a couple of years ago. Did not race in 2022. And Skims, the 6 at 20-1, does have a couple of 10s. The last 2 of the last 3 races.
But if these horses run 7s, what is a 10 going to do for you? That's the problem.
Well, we don't know if the 5 is going to run a 7, though.
Yeah, but Charles Appleby doesn't come here with anything unless they run.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah, because
well, I mean, look, there's a few things on that. One, Charlie Appleby is going to support the Keeneland program with who's in charge over there right now. Is he's obviously looking to support the program. She's a nice filly. I don't know how good she is. She needs to improve. At Saratoga last year, she was good, not great. I thought the other two colts were better than she was. Obviously, one of them being Modern Games and went on to do great things. She was good in Dubai. It was workmanlike when she won both races. This is the logical step. I don't know. She's a true Group 1 filly. If she's ever going to win a Group 1, I think they thought this race was going to come up a little bit easier. This is a salty race. There's almost the entire field are graded stakes winners or grade 1 place horses. Really, really good group. The horse that I think you have to mention is Queen Goddess for Michael McCarthy. She was really good on Pegasus Day, winning the filly and mare turf. She's a grade 1 winner in her own right. She has the right running style. Look, in Italian turned into a monster her last second half of the year, starting at Saratoga. I'm shocked, absolutely shocked, that Rosario's not riding her. And I understand he's at Oaklawn and he's riding Clairiere in a big money race where she'll be a clear second choice in a 4-horse field behind Lucas's filly's Secret Oath. But I don't know if this caught them off guard. If maybe they didn't think she was going to run in this race. Normally you don't get off horses like this, especially as good as she was. Her race at Keeneland in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf, I think people forget about how freaky good it was. She went so fast and so hard and almost held on and almost went gate to wire. It was just a remarkable effort. Not something you often see from Chad Brown horses, just kind of throwing down the gauntlet. She's well rested. Does she need one off the bench? That's the only question. But I think the race starts and ends through in Italian because she was that talented the second half of the year. She was probably the best filly in the country the second half of the year. So very, very surprised. Obviously, with Irad taking over, it's not like you're in trouble. But very interesting that Irad takes over on an Italian. And then of course, we chased Chad's other filly for a while last year. She disappointed after being so good on Derby Day. If you go back though and watch the replay, what's her name? Speak of the Devil or Run the Devil, whatever her name is. Chad Brown's other horse. She ran a really, really sneaky good race last time out at Gulfstream on whatever turf they call that thing. I think she can improve leaps and bounds, and it wouldn't surprise me to see her pick up a big piece at what'll probably be an overlay because people are kind of done with her.
Okay, that's the Pratt horse.
Yeah. I got a feeling she can run a much improved race, and you'll probably get 5 or 6 to 1 on her.
And she's 10 to 1 now.
She's the kind of horse that if she shows up with her A race, and Chad's not one to run him back quickly, especially if an Italian's ready. He doesn't need this one, especially like in the past when Chad Brown runs 4 horses in a turf stake race. Normally one of them's the designated rabbit, 2 of them are good, the other one is there to play fullback. In this situation, in Italian's the speedster, and she's supposed to be the better one. So why is this filly in the race unless they have a feeling that she can capitalize on an Italian speed? I just got a sneaky feeling that she might run a big race for Chad Brown.
So the 4 would be the horse that you'd want to try to make some money on with an Italian.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Appreciate it, as always, guys. Next week, actually, the next couple of weeks, things get a little slower before the Derby. Just quickly taking a look at what's on tap for the 22nd. As far as stakes races, we have what? No, it doesn't. Well, we have a couple of grade. We have a grade 2 and a grade 3 at Keeneland. We've got the Elkhorn and the Ben Alley at Keeneland, and we also have 2 grade stakes, the Californian and the Kona Gold at Santa Anita. So those are the 2 named stakes races, the ones that might get the most popularity. We'll check them out. Maybe we'll do those races.
We got racing in Mahoning Valley. Come on. We got racing in Mahoning Valley now, too.
Where's that?
Ohio.
Oh, okay. What's the abbreviation for that one?
MVR.
Begins with an H?
M as in Mary.
Oh. MER?
MVR.
VR. I don't see that on Saturday.
Dave.
Stake races there.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
I'll talk
Have a
to you
good
next week. Thank you.
Take care.